Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has written a letter to the Lok Sabha Speaker and the Rajya Sabha Chairperson opposing the relocation of statues of prominent leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar from the designated spaces inside the parliament premises. He has asked both the Lok Sabha Speaker and the Rajya Sabha Chairperson to restore the statues of the prominent leaders to their original spaces. Kharge has also said that there was no consultation, even though there was a committee, a parliamentary standing committee on the installation of statues and portraits. That committee was not reconstituted after 2019, and in a very arbitrary manner, without consultation, the government has gone ahead and has pushed these statues on a space which is called Prerna Sthal, which was inaugurated recently by the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. So, why were these statues relocated? What was the need? What is the mindset of the government? And does it violate the spirit of democracy? Joining me now on this panel discussion is a renowned historian, Mridula Mukherjee. Thank you, ma'am, so much for joining. We have PDT Achari, who's the former Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. Thank you, sir, so much. And we have senior journalist and political commentator Anand Sahai with us. Thank you so much, Anand, for joining. Now, let me begin with Mr. Achari. Mr. Achari, how would you really see this move? And have you ever heard in your memory ever that, a government, a newly formed government trying to relocate the statues to a different space altogether, now called Prerna Sthal? This has never happened ever in the history. But how do you look at this move?
There are two things, which I wanted to mention in this context. One is that in Parliament, there used to be a committee to deal with these issues relating to statues. In fact, there are a whole lot of statues installed in the Parliament premises. This committee actually consists of the leaders of all the political parties. And Speaker used to be the chairman of this committee. And we used to, when I was Secretary General, we used to meet quite often to decide which statue should be brought in and installed there and all that. So it has always been the practice to have a committee meeting held first, and then the committee decides whether the statue should be installed at a particular place. And in fact, at no stage did we ever think about shifting a statue from its place to another place. Now, here I understand that for the past 4 or 5 years, there has been no committee. I mean, the committee has not been reconstituted. That means during the past 5 years, there was no committee at all to deal with this issue. Now, suddenly, we find a decision to relocate the statues, and it has been done with such speed, and then it has been, these statues have been shifted to a place which is behind the Parliament House. Gandhi statue and Ambedkar statue, everybody knows these were placed at a very vantage position. And now those statues have been shifted to a place which is behind the Parliament House almost. The main gates and all that. It is opposite the building gate number 7. That is the gate through which the Deputy Speaker comes in. Nobody goes and nobody can see these things. Nobody normally goes to that area. That is it. It is almost a neglected area, so to say. And they call it Prerna Sthal. You call it even Vaikunt, doesn't make any difference. Actually, it is a place where people don't go. That is it. So, whatever name you may give it, but that is immaterial. The point is that these statues, which were placed at a very vantage position in front of the Parliament House, have been shifted to a place which nobody visits. And they have called it a Prerna Sthal and all that. It's okay. So these are the, now the question is whether statue of Gandhi and statue of Ambedkar, whether these statues can be equated with other statues. That is a question which needs to be answered. Ambedkar was standing majestically there holding a book. There is a constitution in his hand. It was a wonderful statue, a majestic statue that was standing there in front of parliament, which has a meaning, significance. Ambedkar standing there. Because the person who drafted the constitution or presided over the drafting committee. And then Gandhi, I don't have to say anything. Now, that statue, these two statues have been shifted to a place which is normally not visited by people. And then these statues will be placed there along with many other statues. Are these statues to be placed in such a place, and that too, along with other statues? That is the question which is important. One is that the committee has not gone into, there is no committee which has dealt with it. So the opinions of different political parties were not available. In fact, I remember when there was when I was Secretary General, when there was a proposal to install a statue of Bhagat Singh, and one particular political party wanted to finance it and then take all the credit for that. I don't name the political party, but then I, as a Secretary General, I was, because I attend the committee meetings. Then I suggested that we, the Secretariat, Lok Sabha Secretariat, finance that the whole statue, because Bhagat Singh doesn't belong to a particular political party. He belongs to the whole country, and therefore I thought it was proper for us to finance it. So I took money from our budget, the Lok Sabha's budget, and about 45 lakhs or something, we spent on the statue, and the statue was installed there. That is the kind of discussions and deliberations. In fact, I made this proposal before the committee, where all the senior leaders were present, and they accepted it wholeheartedly. Yes, Lok Sabha can finance it, so that there is no controversy.
Right.
That is the kind of discussion that used to take place in these committees, and decisions used to be taken. But now I understand that there was no such thing. No committee existed, and therefore I don't know who discussed it or who decided it. Normally it is a speaker, because everything is within the parliament premises, is done on the direction of the speaker. Everything. And here I do not know. I am totally ignorant. I am totally in the dark about this.
No, but Mr. Acharya, now the question is that since Mr. Kharge has written to the Lok Sabha Speaker and the Rajya Sabha Chairperson that these statues should be restored to their original places. Now, can the government, after taking a big decision like this, that it's all the statues have been shifted to Prerna Sthal, now can they bring it back, or how will it happen? Will the parties have to go to the court? How will they make a hue and cry over this issue? Because they're saying that it's a violation of the spirit of democracy. That's what Mr. Kharge has written as part of his letter.
Well, I do not want to go into the politics of it, because I normally don't discuss politics. Now, the point is that the tradition has been for the committee to meet and decide. Therefore, let them set up a committee on statues, and let this matter be placed before that committee. Let that committee examine it and take a fresh decision on this. That is what I would suggest.
Okay, so you're saying that let a fresh committee be constituted and then a decision taken on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, will that happen is a big question mark. But let me come to Mridula ma'am now. Mridula ji, how will you really see this? Now, this whole mindset of not consulting, which we have seen in the past as well, on this government, that no kind of deliberation, no kind of discussion really happens. But when it comes to, a sanctimonious thing like this of shifting statues, now this was a decision which was related to everyone. Like Ambedkar belongs to everyone, Mahatma Gandhi belongs to everyone, and shifting these statues to us to a place called Prerna Sthal, which, as Mr. Acharya says, that it's not visible to anybody. And then how can you equate Gandhi and Ambedkar with other leaders? Now, what is the mindset? Why do you think that the government, did this as a secret deal, and all of a sudden, when it was inaugurated, then all this came in the public domain?
Well, there are many issues involved in this, and I think Mr. Acharya has pointed out, to my mind, what is the most important issue, which is the violation of the whole tradition of and the norms. I don't know if these are rules, but they're certainly very strong norms that there was always a committee which consisted of leaders of all political parties, which through consensus, through discussion, used to come to a conclusion. I remember very well, I think, I don't know if it's the same committee or there's another committee for portraits, because these are the two, the requests come for putting up portraits in the parliament and also to put up statues. So either there are two committees or there is one committee that Mr. Achari will know. But certainly, I recall very well over the years, because I remember with Savarkar's portrait, there was a big controversy. So, one was very aware of what the norms were, how these things were decided. So, I think that's the most fundamental question, is that neglecting to even form a committee, a tradition which has been there, I think that's a very gross violation of parliamentary procedure. And this is at one with the overall attitude which this government has shown in the last 10 years of not showing due respect to parliament and parliamentary procedures, which I think is the larger issue before us. So it's not a question of just paying, what shall I say, lip service, to Parliament by bending down and touching your head on the steps of Parliament, or taking the Constitution and touching it to your head, and all that kind of thing, and saying the Constitution can never be changed and all that. It's a question of actually respecting the traditions which have evolved over the years, which incorporate the wisdom of all the predecessors, you know, right from the time that Parliament came into being, 17 years of Jawaharlal Nehru as Prime Minister, when the foundations were laid, when the stalwarts were all in the Parliament, so parliamentary practices and procedures have evolved in order to protect democracy, to institute consensus as the prime principle on the basis of which decisions should be taken. And it's not a question of whether you're the majority party and therefore you can ride roughshod over everyone else. It's a question of how you want to function. As Nehru famously said, in the last analysis, democracy is about dialogue. That's the most important principle in a democracy. You must have a dialogue with your opponents, with your critics. That is the essence of democracy. Democracy is not about getting a majority and then ramming your views through no matter what you like. So to me, that's the fundamental question. I don't even understand where is the necessity for this, unless you are so determined that you want to remove Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar from their, as he said, the vantage points at which those two were located. Why else would you do this in this way? You know that people would not agree, so you do it virtually in between two governments. Actually, these things have come to light virtually when they have happened. And that's what I gather from the press, that these statues have already been removed. I mean, this is absurd, absolutely. And mind you, these are not some tiny statues or something. These are huge structures. I mean, that Gandhi statue, I mean, from my memory, that I must have seen it a few times when I may have gone into the Parliament building. My memory is that it must be, at least 20, 25 feet high, and a massive structure. Ambedkar, again, you don't just do this casually. But this is again reminds you of what has happened with so-called Kartavya Path, the whole demolitions that have taken place, the IGNCA building which has been demolished, and what horrors we can now see what's come up in place of that. The older buildings, Shastri Bhavan, Krishi Bhavan, and all, they were still quite a bit away from the gardens. They were not so prominently imposing onto the actual central vista. Now you see what's coming. The threat to the National Museum. I can't even imagine that anybody in their senses would want to mess. You don't mess with museums. There is a threat to our national archives. As a historian, I'm horrified. The new building, which was built about, I think, 30, 40 years ago, where now all the archival records are kept. In their plan, even that building is going to be demolished. I don't know what will happen. Every time you disturb records, it is a principle. Everywhere in the world, you lose a lot of records. Not only because records are typically fragile, these are very old. Some of the records I'm going back there to the 16th century, and certainly 17th and 18th century manuscript records are there. So what all we will lose with this kind of attitude? That's what's most frightening to me. You don't consult, you just have your favorite, some bimal, somebody architect from Ahmedabad. Now they've seen how politically costly it is to give everything to the Gujarati, I don't want to say mafia, but in Ayodhya they are paying the cost for having given all the contracts over there to people from Gujarat. That's what the local people are saying. What are we getting out of all this building of the Ram temple? It's outsiders. They're all coming and taking over the place. So I'm just saying that, so many people protested, artists, architects, they weren't given a hearing. They're going ahead in this way. So that is what is really worrying. Apart from the fact, which Mr. Chari has already said, I think it's a gross violation of all norms. And I think to even think of messing with something like that is preposterous.
Right. Okay, now let me come to Anand. And Anand, do you see this as some kind of a conspiracy? Because to raise the legacy of Bapu and especially the statue in a meditative posture, it almost became a symbol of democracy because we saw the opposition members, protesting inside Parliament premises outside that statue. Now, arbitrarily removing that statue, even the statue of Mr. B.R. Ambedkar, do you see this as some kind of a conspiracy, as some kind of a hidden agenda which the government is trying to implement, and which is why it was done so discreetly? Nobody knew until unless the Prerna Sthal was inaugurated, and that's when the political parties realized that look what has been done to these statues inside the parliament premises.
That you are late on the ball. The conspiracy has already been given effect to. The statues are gone from there.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a conspiracy. Now, if you make important changes in your home, then you will do so because there is a reason for it. You either build something, add something, or break something, okay, or refashion something. There has to be a compelling reason. What was that reason here? Not known. All we know is that the speaker is yet to be elected. Furthermore, the president has committed, in my view, a serious impropriety when she invited the prime minister without giving a date by which or on which he should test his strength on the floor of the house. Right? So the man is not yet tested his strength. There is no speaker. The Rajya Sabha chairman is continuing because there was no election to the Rajya Sabha. Right? He has no authority over this matter. The prime minister has no authority over this matter. The ministry for building and all that stuff, housing, they have no. This is the speaker's domain solely. As Dr. Achari, who is a leading light, who is a guiding light in this respect, has just informed us. Quite right. And it's been done. So, who has done it? It's not a Holy Ghost which has come, or an unholy one for that matter. It is the heavy hand of the state, right? So the conspiracy has been given effect to by the heavy hand of the state in this respect. And what was the compelling need? There's only one need. They have been going after Gandhi for years. They assassinated him. By they, I mean people of a certain persuasion, certain ideological persuasion. After they assassinated him, they did not get the chance to malign him for 70 years nearly. Now they've got the chance, therefore, prominent leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, MPs, and so on. Over the years, various voices garlanding the man who assassinated Gandhi, starting a temple in his name, right? And so on. It's a long list of not misdemeanors, but carefully thought out, a programmatic, slow, step-by-step implementation of a certain kind of thought. That is what it is. And it has taken this present shape today. After all, why was Gandhiji and Dr. Ambedkar, why were they placed where they were placed? There would have been some thought about it. Have a group of people met, senior political leaders, MPs, etc., to revise that thinking? No, that's quite plain. So therefore, before anything legitimate can intervene here, this unholy ghost has showed its hand, right? And in order to properly challenge such a step, which can nothing be described as nothing less than disgrace to our history, to our past, to our constitution, which itself is a tribute to our freedom movement, of which Gandhiji was the undisputed leader. What was that movement all about? Mridula will tell us all about it. She's a very, very famous historian of modern India. How did Gandhi differ from the other luminaries who were there at that time, or those who preceded him, before he returned from South Africa? He brought the ordinary Indian onto the street. He made it a mass movement from people of all parts of the country. So that whole thing is being negated because a dictatorial tendency is being promoted. We have a cult of Stalin and a cult of Mao and a cult of Kim Il-sung rolled into one being promoted today. That is what was being promoted before the last election, when this certain party had a complete, absolute majority. Today, that party has been defeated in effect. The man who stood for Varanasi, who was prime minister, a slipper was thrown at his motorcade just the other day. His win margin has been slashed. And the win is a highly controversial win. Did he really win? Or did the election commission, which is, I am afraid, to the great chagrin of all of us today, of all Indians, was in the pocket of a few, because the law was altered to establish this present election commission. And then this recently appointed prime minister, without ado, goes off to an outreach meeting of a few rich foreign powers to say that what's happening in India is for the world's good. Is this for the world's good? Promotion of dictatorship through an act of this vile, disgraceful nature? This is yet addition to, by one more event, misdeed to the long list of misdeeds of the past 10 years, in which the peasants, the working class, the young youth of India, the
Right.
flower of India, they have been dealt with by a harsh hand.
So I'll come for the concluding remarks to all of you one by one, and I'll come to you, Mr. Achari. That in the beginning you said that a committee needs to be constituted and let the committee take a decision on this. Now, how easy or how difficult will that be to reverse the decision, even if the committee is constituted and all the parties bring in their suggestions? So what is likely to happen at the table? Can the committee, which is going to be constituted, if at all, if it is being done, can it reverse the decision, and can the statues be relocated to the original space?
Well, it can do so. There's nothing impossible about it. After all, these huge statues have been shifted out of that place easily without anybody knowing about it. Actually, the outside world didn't know this. Even I, a person who grew up with the system there, I spent 40 years in parliament. So I virtually grew up with the system. So I know how the system works there. So even I didn't know that these things have been done. The point is, you know, since I know the systems of parliament, uh, the decision to shift these statues was taken outside that system. Uh, so there was no committee to deal with these issues. It is the committee of parliament. It's not a it's not a joke. A committee means it represents leaders of all political parties. That means the entire country is represented in a way in a
Right.
committee, and they collectively take a decision to install a statue or shift a statue or whatever. But here there is no such thing. They have not gone through that process at all. So we do not know at whose level this decision was taken. Uh, uh, Whatever it is, whoever has taken this decision has taken this decision outside, bypassing the system of parliament, which is not the proper thing to do. And therefore, that is why I suggested that this should be brought back to the system, before the system, that is the committee, and let the committee decide. In the new political situation, a committee is not what it used to be during the past 10 years. I anticipate a certain changes in the attitude of the committee members and the chairman and all that. There is a kind of a change that has taken place. Therefore, when I say these committee leaders of all these of these various parties, they can really discuss it and take a decision. And I'm sure that a decision will be taken for relocating these two statues, because these two statues represent two individuals who are not mere individuals. They represent the conscience of India, and therefore, uh, I'm sure that such a committee will take a proper decision on this issue.
All right. Now let me come to Mridula ma'am for very brief remarks to you and Anand sir. Uh, now, how hopeful are you, the kind of mandate which has come from this election, and will the allies, the NDA allies, like Chandrababu Naidu's party, like Nitish Kumar, will they dig in their heels on this particular issue? They've been espousing for secularism. They've stood for all the parliamentary principles earlier. Will they dig in their heels on this particular issue? How hopeful are you of that?
I think it's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we should be waiting for either Chandrababu Naidu or Nitish or whoever else are the allies who are supporting to take decisions. I think there's I mean, the opposition itself is a large bloc, right? And they should take their own decision about what they feel. Do they feel strongly enough about this gross violation of every norm? Do they feel strongly about the fact that, without any discussion of any kind, and as Mr. Acharya said, that there has never been a precedent of actually shifting a statue. And here you are shifting statues of two major figures. First, the government should be brought to book on why. As Anand said, you have to have a reason for relocating. No? What you're not building the new building there? That building also there was no consensus on it. On nothing, on the inauguration of the building, there was no consensus. On the decision, there was no consensus. But here, these are not bothering anybody, except as Anand says, obviously. I'm not going to repeat what he said. I agree with every word of what he said about the motivation, you know, behind it. But I think one has to, this is where, I mean, the discussion a little bit before you started the program also, we were saying that the opposition has to really start thinking about how strongly they are going to take up the issues. What are the forms through which the committee, the demand for a committee is a very important demand. But I think it has to go beyond that. I would say they have to actually challenge what has happened. That spot should be a spot where they should just go and do a satyagraha, as they used to do when Gandhi statue was there. Now they should do it there. They should do it at Ambedkar's statue. Every day go and make a mark over there. Say, I don't know, this is for them. I'm nobody to advise them on what exactly the form should be. But the point I'm making is that a strong enough resistance has to be expressed to what has happened, not just a token resistance. I think that's extremely important because as I said, it's reflective of a whole way of functioning, and the opposition has to begin to object to every such step. Only then they can, make a dent. So not a question of will their allies do this? Let them do or not do. You can't keep waiting for Nitish and Chandrababu Naidu for them for it to become convenient for them to pull the carpet, and it will also become convenient for them to pull the carpet only if they say that the people of India are going the other way.
You
And
raised
that
two.
will happen if the opposition actually now demonstrates that the electoral victories that it got have also given it the capacity to fight
Now,
strongly wherever it is required in parliament, outside parliament, on the street, in assemblies. And there are multifarious ways in a democracy through which you fight. You fight through the media, it's always a multi-pronged struggle. It cannot be only on one issue. The demand for
absolutely.
a committee obviously has to be there. But along with that, I think a very clear message has to be sent. This is not acceptable. First and foremost, give us an explanation why you did it and who did it. I think Anand has raised a very important point. There was no speaker. Who took the decisions? Do an RTI, find out, show us the files. Who
Yeah.
took this decision and how? How can such an important decision be taken like this? I think everything about it has to be questioned. That's
Actually,
what I think.
you've raised very important points, and in fact, 2 points which you said, that should the government be booked for what it has done. You also said that there should be enough resistance to express that this is something which is very, very wrong. It shouldn't have been done. Now, coming to you, Anand, then very brief reply from you, that how will the government be booked on this, and if for the mainstream media it doesn't become an issue, and alternate media only picks up this issue, and amidst a plethora of issues which are happening, like paper leaks and everything, I don't know how much space this story has got. But since yesterday, like, I have also discussed this issue in a very scattered manner on few platforms. But to say that there is a consistent campaign on this, I haven't seen any of that. So the two important questions which Midraji raised: how will the government be booked on this, and can there be enough expression of this opposition? How will we ensure that? Very briefly, yes.
Uh, See, in the recent election, the issue which went down to the last person in practically every village of northern India and western India, where the defeats of the BJP were the strongest, was the issue of tampering with the constitution.
Yes.
And no sooner has the election been done than they have done this.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think an appropriate riposte will be by the people of India. So you organize the people of India, to my mind, to begin with. Start with Maharashtra, Haryana, Jharkhand, states where elections will be held very soon, Bihar, where assembly elections are due next year, and then, of course, UP. UP, I was in UP through the campaign, and I saw the average man in 5 or 6 constituencies that I visited. There was open rebelliousness in the conversations. I had to ask them to cool down a bit. I did not want to carry that language in my reporting. That was the mood. So that mood, the people of India can be mobilized. The complete denigration of Gandhi like this, the complete denigration of Ambedkar like this, is something that touches the people as much as hunger does. So let me say that is point number one. Point number two, procedurally, I do not know whether in such committees is the decision carried by a majority or a consensus. This I don't know. But if it's going to be a majority, then of course the government side has the majority.
Yeah.
If it's consensus, then of course the present move, which has already been given effect to, it is easier to negate. But regardless of what happens in committees of parliament, in the drawing rooms of political leaders, and their usually futile and useless deliberations, answer is go to the people. That was Gandhi's
Yeah.
answer. That was Gandhiji's answer. You
Yes.
do that, and you'll find all doubts resolved.
So we'll have to see, wait and see whether at all this new committee is constituted. Will there be any deliberation? But yes, as what Mridula ma'am and Mr. Achari and Anand, all of them have said, that this is a clear violation of the spirit of democracy. It's a violation of the parliamentary procedures and the way the democracy has evolved over the years. It's a complete negation of that. But how much resistance will be put up on this particular issue, one will have to wait and see. Thank you so much, Mr. Achari, Mridula ma'am, Anand. It was wonderful to have all of you on the program. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion: subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal.